Hi, how's it going? Welcome back to the Manufacturing Come Up, where we talk about how people came up in the industry, how they got to where they're at, and the journey that they went through to get there. Here we have David St. George with us, who's the sales manager, regional sales manager for CIMON, located here in the USA. They're in Las Vegas, Nevada, is their headquarters. This episode of the Manufacturing Come Up is sponsored by Elite Automation.
Elite Automation is focusing on AMR technologies. AMRs are autonomous mobile robots used in your facility to transfer goods or products from one side of your facility to the other.
This is a super powerful tool, and it's a new piece of technology that us as systems integrators can utilize as a tool to leverage your company to be more advanced than the next company and be able to automate systems that at one point were not able to be automated.
If you have any AMR needs, you can reach us at rfq@eliteautomationusa.com.
Thanks, Malachi. I'm glad to be here with you. I've been following you on LinkedIn for quite some time, man. I'm a big fan of your company and all the great stuff that you're doing in automation and controls, man. So keep up the great work. And I got started in automation and controls, gosh, it was almost 30 years ago, about 29 years ago. And I graduated from Kent State University, and I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I knew that I was a problem solver. I like talking to people, and I like helping people solve problems. So sales was kind of a natural avenue for me to follow. And I'm also a technical guy. So when I got out of school, I cut my teeth in an inside sales job working for a small distributor on the east side of Cleveland, Ohio. And it was exciting. I really liked it. I helped people solve problems. I got a chance to go out with some of the field sales guys and look at applications and try to figure out what we could do to help that customer solve a problem. And a lot of my engineer friends don't quite understand my job because they go, I could never sell. And I go, I'm not selling, I'm solving problems, and I do it in a smart, intelligent way. And if you have a good product and a good reputation, people gravitate and they buy from you. So, after getting out of school, I did that for a few years, and I decided that distribution was a little crazy. At the time, distributors were getting bought up. It was a lot of acquisitions going on, and I decided at that point I had an opportunity to work for a manufacturer, and I went to work for, at the time, they were called Olflex Wire and Cable and Contact Epic Connectors, and now they're called Lap USA. And they make a fine product, German company, flexible cables, and I was doing cable assemblies for them, rail assemblies and things like that, and automotive plants and everywhere. So I really liked that. Got an opportunity to go to work for a Japanese manufacturer called IDEC Corporation, and cut my teeth there and learned a lot about automation and controls, everything from PLCs to pluggable relays and generic stuff like power supplies, push buttons, and everything. And they had a pretty good product line. And
How old were you about that time?
at that time, well, I'll tell you, I'm about 54 years old now. And I've been with CIMON for about 3 years now. And prior to that, I managed a distributor in downtown Cleveland, an automation and controls distributor. And did that for 6 years. And then I was with IDEC for 11 years. So I'd have to say I was roughly in my mid to late 30s. So it was really neat how my story progressed in terms of how I learned the business. And I guess probably like you do, Malachi, I try to surround myself with knowledgeable people and then act like a sponge because, I'm the type of a guy that likes to learn like you are. And the more you learn, the more effective you can be. And so I learned quite a lot, especially over probably the last 15 years. Because when you're a young guy, it's kind of difficult to apply those things,
Consume too.
Exactly.
Yes, a lot of us are still seeking in.
Exactly. So I was able to really show my ability to be able to help customers grow the business. And it's something I'm very passionate about, just like you are about robotics and about, some of your customers that you help to solve problems. And that's where you and I think have some similarities in terms of, the mold that we're made from, so to speak. So,
So whenever you went into college, or maybe even further back, did you have interest in this type of field or manufacturing or anything when you were like in high school?
I did. When I was in high school, it probably goes back to my father, I guess.
Okay.
My father sold advertising space for high-tech magazines, all right?
Nice.
So metal forming and fabricating, a lot of patent publishing companies, aerospace engineering, plant engineering and things like that. So my dad would bring these magazines home with him and leave them laying around the house or in his office. And I found myself as a young high school kid, maybe even 7th, 8th grade, picking up these magazines and going through them and looking at some of the cool stuff that they were doing and asking my dad lots of questions about it, you know? And my dad at the time thought, well, he's interested in advertising. Maybe he wants to get into my business. And Dad found out later I was more of a techie guy and I was more technical and I was really interested in the products that were in the magazines versus the advertising and doing that kind of thing. So
was that his business then?
it was.
Okay.
He was a rep and he repped about probably 4 or 5 different magazines. And again, maybe that's why I got the sales gene in me, because my father was one of the leading salespeople, Alan St. George was my middle name, but one of the leading salespeople. And every year my dad excelled at what he did, and I really admired that because my dad would win trips to the Virgin Islands or to Hawaii or things like that. And Dad would come home and he's like, "Hey, I was the top salesman again this year. We're going to Hawaii next month." And as a 13 or 14-year-old kid, you're like, "Oh, that's fantastic, Dad. Let's go to Hawaii," you know?
Yeah.
So it was fun, and I really admired that, and I said, I can do that. I'm a people person. I like to talk with people, and so it was a natural movement for me.
Whenever you was going into college, like what was your degree in particular, or what were you thinking about doing whenever?
That's a really funny story. When I first got started off, I thought maybe I might be interested in advertising. You know, as a freshman going into Kent State is where I graduated from, and I thought, you know, maybe I'll start with like pre-journalism advertising. So as a freshman, I decided that was the original route. And what college kid doesn't change their mind 5 or 6 or 10 times when they start off in school? And so I did that for maybe a year or so. I wasn't sure that I liked it. I really started focusing at that point on marketing and business, like the business management and that kind of thing. So I got a dual degree, and you're gonna probably laugh a little bit at this because it's not super technical, but I got a dual degree in business management and psychology. So business management, marketing, and psychology. And why psychology, right? First of all, I was just interested in it. I thought psychology was really cool. And then I said, well, geez, as a salesperson, if you can understand somebody better, I think you can help them better. So I was able to take that and apply it to what I wanted to do in life.
Absolutely. Yeah, whenever I went to college, I attempted to take the psychology class. I wasn't able to do it because it was booked, and then it would have delayed my graduation by a year.
Right.
But like I really wanted the psychology, and they told me like this is gonna be way harder than like they had some other like 101 class or whatever that satisfied the need, right? But I was like, I don't care. Like, I think it was actually like science or something like that, some type of science class. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not practical to anything I'm gonna do in life. I'm not gonna learn anything from it. And for psychology, like, we use it every day, right? When we communicate with individuals, like, you understand the root meaning or the root on why we do things.
Exactly. And it's kind of funny you say that because as you were talking, I was thinking, it's like, I took a bunch of different type of psychology classes, primarily because I was interested in it. And one of the ones I thought was really kind of cool was like child psychology. So now I have like 2 19-year-olds, and I can tell you that really helped me, and it still helps me today, you know. Somewhere along the line, though, like most kids, up until they're about 16 years old, dad and mom is like a knowledge base. Something happened over the last few years, Malachi. All of a sudden, I don't know anything anymore. So it's all good.
Awesome. So how did that transpire to you coming here at CIMON?
Great question. So prior to coming here 3 years ago, I told you that I managed an automation and controls distributor in Cleveland, Ohio. And so we sold everything from automation controls, PLCs, HMIs, variable frequency drives. We were a distributor for ABB, for Eaton, for IDEC, a lot of really good brand names, and even some other ones like Delta and some other people like that. So with that knowledge, I was able to really understand all the players beyond just IDEC, which was what my one-sided view was, and be able to really look at what are the advantages and benefits that some of these other guys have, and be able to go out and tell the customer, okay, well, this brand has this and it's less expensive, but this brand's a little bit more, and it carries more features that you might want to be able to expand or to be able to have scalability within the system that you're creating. And so it gave me a better knowledge. And also, it helps me understand the challenges that some of our distributors and integrators like you go through. And I think that helps me have a better understanding of sometimes what your challenges are, not just from an empathetic standpoint, but from a solution standpoint. How do we get by something to make it a better situation for you? And make it a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like one thing for us as a company that we do. We would prefer spend more money on things. One, that's our brand representation is, we don't want to be known as cheap. We want to be known as the guys, right? Like they can solve the problem. Whenever they do it, they execute it super quickly. And so for us, like one of the things that we do is whenever we're speccing out a PLC, generally we way over spec it, right? We'd prefer over spec it. It has every feature that you could need in it. Sure, maybe we pay an extra $500,000 for that PLC, but it gives us the ability to only have one part number, right? So then we don't have to worry about which PLC we're using on this project. We just know we're using that one, And there's like a very small chances, like when we need to use other systems, whenever we are trying to provide values to our customer if they need a lower cost option, because we will do it, right? Sure. We've even done machine tending CNC presses with cylinders.
Really?
Just cylinder mechanisms.
Really?
And then PLC programming it to go in. I think we have a YouTube video on our YouTube channel.
I'm gonna check that out, because that sounds pretty cool, man. Is that something is that an idea that you created, or?
So it was between us and one of our vendors.
Okay.
We had this customer. They had I think it was under $25,000 to spend or something.
Sure.
To do some machine tending. They said we run this one part on this press. There's a human here just operating it all the time. We never change part numbers.
Sure.
So yeah, sure. Let's see what we can do with it. And I think we ended up doing the entire system, controls and integration for under $20,000.
That's fantastic. And when you can hit the budget like that and solve the problem, that's pretty much a slam dunk, yeah.
And a lot of these customers too, they're not huge Toyotas, right? They don't have the budget to just spend whatever on a system, right? They have to be more conscious on how they're spending their dollars in their company, or maybe they don't have much automation. They don't have the skill set to handle robotics at this point in time.
This episode of the Manufacturing Come Up is sponsored by Elite Automation.
Elite Automation is a systems integrator specializing in robotic weld cell applications, and especially the design and manufacturing of the weld fixture.
If you have any robotic weld cell needs, you can reach us at rfq@eliteautomationusa.com.
Or engineering staffs are down with every company.
Yeah.
I mean, so companies like Elite can really provide value to the customer. And I'm really glad that we partnered together, Malachi, because I know that there's a lot of other brands that sometimes your customer dictates and says, you're going to use Rockwell, or you're going to use Siemens, or an Amaran, or somebody like that. And in some cases, your hands are tied. I mean, you're not doing design build, you're doing build to print. And with today's supply chain issues that are going on, we're seeing a lot of customers that are maybe even moving away from some of the big brands and going towards somebody that has a good solution, that I can find inventory availability. And that's one of the reasons that since I came to CIMON, and it's kind of funny, I came to CIMON 3 years ago, and then the pandemic hit, right? And all the crazy things that the pandemic was going on, and shortly thereafter, of course, supply chain issues. And us being a South Korean company, we've been in business for 23 years. We've got a lot of really big customers that have put their faith in us for 20 or more of those 23 years. Samsung, Kia, Hyundai, LG, Hankook Tire, Durex.
Yeah, there's some Caterpillar on there.
Caterpillar's on there, Anheuser-Busch. We do a lot with Evoqua, water purification technologies out of the East Coast. And some of the things that CIMON can do for customers beyond being able to deliver better than some of the people can today. And people always ask, well, how do you do that? we tend to inventory a lot of our products, and we probably overstock. We do most of our manufacturing in South Korea, even though we're headquartered in Las Vegas. We're doing some final assembly, and my boss wants to open up a plant in Las Vegas by this time next year. And so that'll be really exciting because we'll be able to make some of those products and have some of our hardware designers and some of our software guys right here. And we're doing that now because we're writing code for some of our new Linux-based products right in Henderson. And that's pretty cool because when a customer says, I need a driver for something that maybe we don't have, and we've got over 200 drivers for stuff, but we can actually implement that inside of a month. I mean, I've got 2 guys that's all that they do is drivers, and we got front-end guys, back-end guys. So we're real excited about some of the direction that we're going in the industry, and Linux, we believe, is kind of the cutting edge of automation, and that's where we're headed. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing that I really liked about your team and working with your team is that you have developers. We've met directly with your developers, the guys who are like working on these systems. They're still working on the systems, right? The system's functional, it works, it's a great system, but they're still like fine tuning, improving, adding extra features, like you said with the drivers, you're spitting out new drivers in, a month or so. And where do you get that? Like if you go to Allen Bradley, you gotta write your own, or you're gonna wait 3 years, or,
Exactly, and nothing bad about them, but I think sometimes being smaller, it makes you more agile and it makes you be able to deliver stuff. And this is one thing that's really refreshing because I haven't really been working for any other company that does this. CIMON Automation listens to what our customers tell us. In many cases, it's like you'd go back to the company and you'd say, this customer says that they need this. And then the manufacturer might say, or the company might say, we don't see a market for that, just sell what we have. So, as an example, some of the places that we're moving to now is towards, cloud and MQTT, and that's where the industry is going.
Yeah,
and so, we're moving in that direction with our developers. And I said to my boss, the COO in Henderson, and he's the owner of the business, the son of the owner, and I said, how much value does the Korean sales team see in this? And he shocked me. He said, none. They're not doing that. So I said, so you're going to do that just for our USA customers here and invest that and spend that money? He says, absolutely. Yeah. If that's what our customers need, we need to respond. Yeah. And I was just like, I beamed with a smile, and I'm like, I've never seen that kind of philosophy. So usually they say, just sell what we have and find a way to explain to the customer that this is the best way to do it. And so now we really listen to the customer, and that's refreshing. And so improvements to the software a lot of times come from our customers' recommendations and something that they say, it's neat that you do this, but I wish you could do that also. And having that design team there, we can implement those changes pretty quickly for customers.
Yeah. That's a key part too, that you can implement them so quickly. Like, sure, like some of these other your competitors, I guess, are listening to the customers maybe, but it takes so long for that change to come into play that, they done installed the system and moved on to the next thing, and then maybe they're not even dealing with that issue anymore.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So I'm really happy that I'm here with CIMON. I see myself being here a long time because we're always, and when you're a high-tech company with high-tech hardware and software, you better be aware of what the industry is doing, because one thing that I have seen personally is that if you get behind, it will take you years to catch up. And there's even been manufacturers, I won't mention any names, that almost don't focus on PLCs anymore because they got so far behind that they have limited resources, and they'll never catch up. They'll never catch up. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. What does some of your new product lines have in store? What's kind of the direction of CIMON?
Sure. We are moving away from an ARM core type processor, and we're going to a Linux-based processor. And a lot of people ask why. A lot of reasons why. Robustness, security. Being able to fix things like bugs and things like that. Like on the current stuff right now, that a lot of it's Windows-based with a lot of manufacturers, Windows CE or something else. If we have a problem with something, God bless Bill Gates, but he don't care about helping us fix that or anybody else. So then we have to create a workaround in order to be able to solve that problem. Now with a Linux kernel, we're able to implement that ourselves.
More of a root system.
And more of a system. And let's say you have something proprietary in terms of a software that you want to run on the PLC or on the HMI. We're able to actually help you download that software. It's a lock system. We don't want you to go in, but you provide us software, we can go in and download that runtime software to our Linux chip and then lock it again, okay? And then lock it up again. So we're able to do little things like that, and I've actually got a really good distributor in the Southeast called B&D Industrial, and we're doing something like for them right now on their preventative maintenance where they're using Python, and they want to be able to embed that on our Linux chip. So we're working with the head engineering manager, Carl Tolbert from B&D, and they're doing a lot of testing because they bought GTI Predictive up on the East Coast, which is more vibration technology type stuff. And we're kind of rolling that in to our PLC. They've had some little controller there that was not industrial. So they're really looking to try to, and they've partnered with us to be able to come up with a better solution for their customers that's more robust and so forth. So that's really exciting too.
Awesome. Let's go kind of shift gears a little bit. What is something that you could advise to somebody who's younger? Maybe they're still in high school, maybe they're just not getting into college. What are some things that they can do to get into this industry?
That's a great question. And you know, today it was different than maybe when I and you were growing up. You don't always have to go to college today in order to achieve some of these goals. You know, you can, but you know, you don't have to. And sometimes you could even go and take a class or two without getting a degree. Today, what it is it's all about knowledge. So you go in as a young guy and you want to, let's say, get a job at Elite Automation or, you know, and get into the field. All you really need to do, quite frankly, is gear yourself. If you're a technical person, you know, you gear yourself towards learning and finding, this is what I've done, okay? I surround myself with people that know more than me, okay? And then, you know, I take a little bit of knowledge from this person and from that person and this person, and then I expand upon that and learn more. So I would just say you gotta be aggressive and wanna learn, and then find a company like Elite or even some manufacturers out there like CIMON that if you've got, you know, the knowledge you've gotten out of school and you've applied that knowledge, that's what people want to see is, you know, how smart are you? Are you able to apply the knowledge of this? And yes, college is always an option, but it's not the only option today. You know,
Absolutely.
A lot of good trade schools too that you can look into, depending on what your interest is. Maybe you don't want to go out and sell PLCs and HMIs like I am. Maybe you're into machine tool or into something like that. And you know, I would recommend highly to some of these young people to do two things. One, find a company like yours that's maybe a medium small company that they can learn some knowledge from. And then, quite frankly, educate yourself. Surround yourself with people that are knowledgeable about that. Do your own research. Ask questions to people that are knowledgeable, and you'll be surprised how much you learn. As a really funny example, we've got a lot of our software engineers that are here manning the booth with us. So a lot of times a customer will come up and want to talk about an application that they have or tell me about your hardware. And it's funny because the software guys, even though they understand our product, they're more geared towards software. And they're like, well, let me get Dave to talk a little bit about that because they're more software focused. But just being here for the week, my software engineers have learned more about our products by listening to customers' problems and listening to how we're going to solve it, that I feel like they're leaving here with a head so big maybe it won't fit through the door.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how you could send salespeople out here, or you could send engineers out here, and the engineer's experience can almost be like a crash college course, you know?
Exactly. And you know what we do too is we got a really good support staff in Henderson, and I think when you're selling a high-tech product, you need to be available. So if one of your engineers, Malachi, says, you know, I'm having a problem, I need to talk to somebody, nobody wants to wait. They want to pick up the phone or send an email and get an answer within an hour. That's the way that we work, and I'm not exaggerating at all. We have a 99% or better satisfaction rate with our customers, and when you call us or when you email us, we pick up the phone and we respond within an hour or so. That's really important because, you know, if you've got your boss sitting there going, when are you going to debug this thing? We got to have it commissioned by the end of the week, right?
Yeah.
And the pressure's up, right?
Yeah.
You need to be able to talk to somebody, and anybody who's touched base with our support team, no exaggeration, we don't charge for our software, we don't charge for our tech support. Why should I charge a customer money to be able to use my product? We want to sell hardware. So anybody who's done that loves our support and says, I pay for support that's not as good as yours.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's awesome to hear. When it comes to somebody like, because you come from the sales background, right?
Yes.
So what kind of trajectorized you and got you into the sales? Did you just immediately jump into the sales? And kind of how was that cycle?
Sure, that's a really good question. And I'm going to give a two answer to that.
Sure.
When I was really young, I knew that I was interested in sales, and this is going to sound funny, but when I was a senior in high school, they had this club. It was called DECA, Distributive Education Club. And what it was is they got you a job, and you got to get out of school at like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon and go to work, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, that's what I want to do. I want to get out of school early and go make some money. So I looked around to see who was hiring, and this is where it gets funny. So I decided to get a job selling shoes for Tom McCann, okay?
Really? Okay.
The brand doesn't even exist anymore today, but I liked just working with people, helping people, and it was a commission-based sales. So not only did I get a salary, but if I sold lots of shoes, I made extra money.
Nice.
So it was just something that I kind of like, yeah, sales, My dad's in sales, this is kind of neat. So and back to your to engineering, a lot of times, a lot of the engineers that I meet, and I'm not saying you're this way, but some are, just don't understand. They're more introverts, and they don't really understand how to talk with people. I'm a really smart technical guy, but I can't equate that to be able to talk with people. So my 19-year-old is kind of similar to that. He's a really smart kid. His IQ is really high, and he has a few friends, but he just doesn't like to talk a lot. So we're working with him just to try to say, speak more. Stop texting on your phone and talk to people, So my recommendation to folks is get yourself some sales experience. And there's also Sandler selling system. I took that. There's some classes that you can take. Even LinkedIn has some sales classes that you can take to expose yourself to it, to cut your teeth in that.
Yeah.
And it's just like anything else. Once you get a little bit of knowledge, you want to follow that up and learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I actually experienced kind of that same thing. I'm more of the introvert.
Sure.
A lot of people, I don't think they notice it because they see me on camera and they're like, no way, dude. But it's like,
you're talking. Right.
Yeah, I'm talking. But it's like, like for me, it's like even to now, it's like I'm walking around the corner to come to you guys' booth. I'm like wiping the sweat off my forehead before I walk over, But like, boom, after I'm in it, then I'm in it, and all things are good, But
right.
It's just like that initial, like just getting started, like starting to.
Nervous, right?
Yeah, a little nervous.
A little nervous. And everybody does. I guess like I can think back like when I had to give my first big talk in front of like a whole room of engineers. You got like 25 engineers in a room and you're getting ready to do a demo and a presentation or something.
Yeah.
Your hands start getting a little sweaty. You're like wiping them on your pants. You're like, I don't want to shake his hand and have a sweaty hand. And you just got to relax. Everybody's kind of in the same boat. Don't let that, get your stomach in knots. And just try to relax and talk with people and don't, and it took a while the first few times. It's still, I mean, it took a while, but after a while, and everybody makes mistakes. I'm a guy that I'll tend to joke a little bit that if I inject a little bit of humor into a meeting like that, not only does it make me feel a little bit better, but other people in the room kind of get a little chuckle maybe or something like that. And when I see them chuckling, all of a sudden your comfort level comes down a little bit, and that kind of thing. And of course, as a sales guy, the worst thing that can happen to you is when you prepare your demo, you download the project to it, everything's functioning great in your office, and you get it in there, you plug it in and everything, and all of a sudden something's not working. You're like, oh my God. Okay, I got 20 people in here. Hold on 1 second, and you pull your laptop out and you re-download the project, and 90% of the time I got it ready to roll and everything's good. But there's always that one time where it's a little embarrassing, and then your palms start getting sweaty again, and you. So.
Absolutely. Awesome, Dave.
Awesome.
David.
I'm really glad that you stopped by our booth today, and I could tell you a little bit about myself. And quite frankly, I'd love to be able to help any young kids that are looking to get into our field. If I can steer you in a direction, help you a little bit with some knowledge, I think the more that we can do that, the better it is for us in terms of being able to keep automation and controls and robotics and keep our industries running, because we need young people to learn this business to keep it rolling.
Yeah,
so,
I really appreciate that. Where can people follow you or find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is David St. George. It's ST.George. And I work for CIMON Automation. You can connect with me. You can follow me, and I usually follow people back that connect with me. So, like I say, I've been following you for quite some time, man. I'm a big fan of yours, man, and keep it up, man. 10,000, you just hit 10,000. That's a big achievement, buddy. And I think within the next year or so, you'll probably be at 20.
Let's hope so.
Excellent, man.
Thank you.
Thanks again for stopping by.
Yeah.